Hello, my YouTube members. Uh, good morning. How you doing? How are you all doing? I hope you all are doing well. This is another lecture show of the Enlightenment and Higher Consciousness, where I provide an alternative perspective on certain issues. Today's topic is Christopher Columbus. Yesterday was the 12th of October, but usually, because they wanted to make it on a 3-day weekend, they always make it on a Monday, even though technically he made the voyage on the 12th of October of 1492. But the parade and all that stuff is usually on a Monday. Usually the holiday itself is always on a Monday, so it could be on a different day. Usually the 11th or something. Usually the 11th. Or some other day. Yes, I have wanted to discuss Christopher Columbus because I've always had an interest in this topic, and being of Spanish descent. It definitely reinforces my interest. I'm going to tell you a brief biography of the man. According to Wikipedia, and this is, like I said, it's only 70% accurate, but 70% accurate is accurate enough. I mean, there are going to be inconsistencies and incorrect information, or outdated or obsolete information. I think Wikipedia is, I will cite another source, but I just wanted to give you the brief, biography of him. His name is, according to Wikipedia, according to popular agreement, his name is Christopher Columbus, and Columbus means the dove. Esoteric, in the etymology. He was born between the August 25th and October 31st of 1451. So it's not clear when he was born. He died on May 20th, 1506. And according to his historians, all of them, according to popular conception and agreement by scholars, was an Italian explorer and navigator who completed 4 voyages across the Atlantic Ocean, opening the way for the widespread European exploration and colonization of the Americas. His expeditions, sponsored by the Catholic monarchs of Spain, were the first European contact with the Caribbean, Central America, and South America. The name Christopher Columbus is an Anglicization of the Latin Christophorus Columbus. Scholars generally agree that Columbus was born in the Republic of Genoa and spoke a dialect of Ligurian as his first language. He went on to sea at the young age and traveled widely as far north as the British Isles and as far south as what is now Ghana. He married a Portuguese nobleman, Filipa Moniz Perestrello, and was based in Lisbon for several years, but later took a Castilian mistress. He had 1 son with each woman, though largely self-educated. Columbus was widely read in geography, astronomy, and history. He formulated a plan to seek western sea passage to the East Indies, hoping to profit from the lucrative spice trade. Following Columbus's persistent lobbying to multiple kingdoms, Castilian monarchs Queen Isabella I and King Ferdinand II agreed to sponsor a journey west. Columbus left Castile in August of 1492 with 3 ships and made the landfall to the Americas on October 12th. It's almost ironic. It's almost coincidental. He landed on the 12th. In numerology, it's a very special number, especially in astrology. Ending with the period of the human habitation of the Americas, now referred to as the Pre-Columbian Era. His landing place was an island in the Bahamas, known by his native inhabitants as Wananati, Guanahani. Columbus subsequently visited the islands now known as Cuba and Hispaniola, establishing a colony in what is now Haiti. Columbus returned to Castile in early 1493, bringing a number of captured natives with him. Word of his voyages soon spread throughout Europe. Let's see here. Okay. Columbus made 3 further voyages to the Americas, exploring the Lesser Antilles in 1493, Trinidad and the northern coast of South America in 1498, and the eastern coast of Central America in 1502. Many of the names he gave to geographical features, particularly islands, are still in use. He also gave the name Indios, Indians, to the indigenous people he encountered. The extent to which he was aware that the Americans were wholly separate landmass is uncertain, according to this, what I'm reading, but I will provide further information on that. He never clearly renounced his belief that he had reached the Far East. As colonial governor, Columbus was accused by his contemporaries of significant brutality and was soon removed from the post. Columbus' strained relationship with the Crown of Castile and its appointed colonial administrators in America led to his arrest and removal from Hispaniola in 1500, and later proclaimed litigation over the benefits that he and his heirs claimed were owed to him by the Crown. Columbus' expeditions inaugurated a period of exploration, conquest, and colonization that lasted for centuries, helping create the modern Western world. The transfer between the Old World and New World that followed in his voyage are known as the Columbian Exchange. Whether some people may interpret that as a positive thing, positive result, there are people who might have a slightly different opinion about that. It's a matter of interpretation. Columbus was widely venerated in the centuries after his death, but public perception has fractured in recent decades as scholars give greater attention to the harm committed under his governance, particularly in the beginning of the depopulation of Hispaniola, indigenous Taínos, from mistreatment and European diseases, as well as their enslavement. Proponents of the Black Legend theory of history claims that Columbus had been unfairly mangled as part of a wider anti-Catholic sentiment. Many places in the Western Hemisphere bear his name, including the country of Colombia, the District of Columbia, and British Columbia. I'll give a brief of his early life. Columbus' early life is obscure, but scholars believe he was born in the Republic of Genoa between August 25th and August 31st of 1451. His father was Domenico Colombo, a wool weaver who worked both in Genoa and Savona, and who also owned a cheese stand in which young Christopher worked as a helper. His mother was Susanna Fontanarosa. He had 3 brothers, Bartolomeo, Giovanni Pellegrino, and Giacomo, also called Diego, as well as a sister named Biacinanetta. His brother Bartolomeo worked in a cartography workshop in Lisbon for at least part of his adulthood. His native language is presumed to have been the Genoese dialect, although Columbus never wrote in that language. His name in the 16th century Genoese language would have been Cristobal Colombo, Lingerian pronunciation. His name in Italian is Cristoforo Colombo, and in Spanish, Cristobal Colon. That's pretty ironic, considering if he was born in Genoa, he would have spoken that language. I wonder why. I will explain later why. There are other theories about this, but in one of his writings, he said he never went to sea he says he went to sea at the age of 10, and in 1470, the Columbus family moved to Savona, where Domenico took over a tavern. In the same year, Christopher was on a Genovese ship hired in the service of Rene of Anjou to to support his attempts to conquer the kingdom of Naples. Soon, modern authors have argued that he was not from Genoa, but instead from the Aragon region of Spain, or from Portugal. And that's now becoming a popular opinion, which is an opinion that I'm beginning to support, and not because I'm of Spanish descent. Instead, from these competing hypotheses have generally been discounted by mainstream scholars, obviously because nobody likes to question historical events. Certain ideas, there are certain facts that are popular. There are certain facts that are not facts that are popular, and there are facts that are unpopular. So nobody wants to hear that he was born in Spain, because people have always been comfortable hearing the idea he was born in Genoa. The country Italy didn't really exist. In 1473, Columbus began his apprenticeship as a business agent for a wealthy Spinola, Cinturón, and De Negro families of Genoa. They were bankers. Later, he made up a trip to Chios, and Aegean Island, then ruled by Genoa. In May of 1476, he took part in an armed convoy sent by Genoa to carry valuable cargo to northern Europe. He probably docked in Bristol, England, and Galway, Ireland, where he may have also gone to Iceland in 1477. It is known that in the autumn of 1477, he sailed on a Portuguese ship to Galway to Lisbon, from Galway to Lisbon, where he found his brother Bartolomeo, and they continued trading for the Centurion family, Centurione family. Columbus based himself in Lisbon from 1477 to 1485. He married Filipa Moyes Perestrello, daughter of the Porto Santo governor of the Portuguese nobleman of Lombard origin, Bartolomeo Perestrello. In 1479 or 1480, Columbus' son Diego was born. Between 1482 to 1485, Columbus traded along the coast of West Africa, reaching the Portuguese trading posts of Elmina at the Guinea Post in present-day Ghana. Before 1484, Columbus returned to Porto Santo to find that his wife had died. He returned to Portugal to settle her estate and take his son Diego with him. He left Portugal for Castile in 1485, where he found a mistress. In 1487, 20-year-old unmarried at the time. A 20-year-old orphan named Beatriz Enriquez de Arana. It is unlikely that Beatriz met Columbus when he was in Cordoba, a gathering site of many Genoese merchants, and where the court of the Catholic monarchs were located at intervals. Beatrice, unmarried at the time, gave birth to Columbus' natural son, Fernando Columbus, in July 1488, named after the monarch of Aragon. Columbus recognized the boy as his offspring. Columbus entrusted his older legitimate son Diego to take care of Beatrice and to pay the pension set aside for her following his death. But Diego was negligent in his duties. Ambitious Columbus eventually learned Latin, Portuguese, and Castilian. He read widely about astronomy, geography, and history, including the works of Claudius Ptolemy, Pierre Cardinal de Ali Mango Mundi, and the travels of Marco Polo and Sir John Mandeville. Pili's Natural History and Pope Pius II, Histori Rerum Ubix Gastrorum, according to historian Edmund Morgan. Columbus was not a scholarly man, yet he studied these books, made hundreds of marginal notations in them, and came out with ideas about the world that were characteristically simple and strong and sometimes wrong. So it's not what you read, it's what you get out of it. The conclusions you draw. It's not how you. It's not how you read. It's not what you read, but how you interpret them. I don't want to get into any of this. He, went around the world, blah blah blah. Naturally he eventually got permission from Queen Isabella and Ferdinand the First. Right? Let's see. Let me check this. Yes. Isabella the First of Castile. Isabella the Catholic, and Ferdinand the Second of Aragon. Eventually they gave him the right. He traveled around the world. There is now a new theory that he was not born in Genoa, that he was born in Catalonia, Spain, or Galicia, and that's very interesting. I would like to read this. This is from the www.ancientorigins.net, History Famous People, Two New Theories, Hotly Debated Origins of Christopher Columbus. According to official history, Christopher Columbus, or Cologne, was born in Genoa and died on May 20th, 1506 in Valladolid. He was an explorer, navigator, and colonizer, famous of his voyages across the Atlantic Ocean and finding New World. Nevertheless, the official story of the actual seems to be based on the legend of facts. The more questioned part of the biography of Columbus is his origins. And now they say, Manuel Rosas, a researcher who comes from the Azores, Portugal. In his theory, Columbus was a son of a Polish king, Władysław III, who escaped. I'm not pronouncing that word correctly, but Władysław III, who escaped from the battlefield in Varna and hid in the island of Madeira. Rosa believes that the former Polish king lived in Madeira under the name of Enrique Almeida and had a wife named Soriana Annis. Senhoria Annis. A Portuguese noblewoman, Rosa says that her son was a famous future traveler known as Columbus. Following Rosa's hypothesis, Columbus was trained as a pilot in Portugal and lived in Madeira. He married Philip Moniz, a Portuguese noblewoman and the daughter of Bartolomeu Perestrello, a knight of the household of Prince Henry the Navigator, captain and governor Porto Santo. So you see here now there's new theories in this book. Rosa presents several arguments about this hypothesis, which are also worth considering. However, Polish historians believe that it is impossible that a king Władysław escaped from the battle in Varna. They ignore the most important proof for it, a note from monks who traveled from Poland to Madeira. These men noted that they met the king alive or well on the island. He apparently told them that he would not go back to Poland, but was he Columbus' father? To confirm it, DNA tests are necessary. Unfortunately, most of the Polish people do not want to exhume the families of Władysław. I can't pronounce that. So it's impossible to check if the theory by Manuel Rosa is true. And then there's the Galician origin. At the same time, several researchers in Spain are attempting to prove that their theory about the origin of Columbus are true. The Galician Madruga, according to some experts from the University of Santiago de Compostela, there is no doubt that the theory about the Galician origin Christopher Columbus is the correct one. The researcher and writer Guillermo Garcia de la Riga, great-grandson of the historian Celso Garcia de la Riga, the first promoter of his hypothesis that Columbus was Galician. That is a autonomous community of Spain, and for those YouTube members who are not aware where Galicia is, it's part of Spain. It's an autonomous community, descendants of Celtic Iberians. in its prehistory. They were Celtic Iberians. They were pre-Galician people, or pre-Hispanic peoples. I mean, the Celts migrated into that region, encountered the Iberians with the natives of the Iberian Peninsula, and they formed a region in what is called Galicia and other areas. And believing that Columbus was Galician, believes that the evidence is so obvious that history would not allow for so many coincidences. According to the document studied by these experts, Columbus was born in the town of Pio in Pontevedra, Galicia. The researchers are convinced that the names Columbus gave to the places he traveled to are related to the names of places he knew from Galicia, Punta Lanzada, San Salvador, or that they have allusions to Galician origins. Port of San Nicolas, Cabo San Miguel, or the Catalina and San Juan Bautista's Islands. It is believed that around 200 names are related to Galicia. Many of them could be known only by a person who spent lots of time in this part of Spain. And Manuel Rosa believes that the first language of the Columbus was Portuguese, but Galician research suggests in the documents that he wrote and he used numerous Galician words. Several writers like Anguilo Farinas de Godoy believes that the history of Columbus is even more surprising than his adventures. In his book, he explains that Christopher Columbus was Pedro Madruga, a Galician man who changed his identity several times. This point of view is shared by Modest Manuel Daval, a researcher. Modesto Manuel Daval, a researcher who published the results of a calligraphic study. According to more than 80 experts, Christopher Columbus and Pedro Madruga are the same person, and their analysis shows that Columbus didn't use Portuguese but Galician, which has many similarities. Madruga apparently had to disappear when he started to have problems and created many enemies for himself. There are many documents proving that Christopher Columbus protected and supported the children of Pedro Madruga. He also took care of the career of the son of Pedro Madruga, and there are signatures by Columbus on several documents connected with baptism and other situations in the family of Pedro Madruga. It continues. Okay. Madruga supposedly died in 1486, but there was no burial, but there was no proof of the existence of a grave for him earlier. Coincidentally, at the same time, Christopher Columbus is documented as a visitor to the court in Madrid. Furthermore, more than 100 documents connected with money, claims, lawsuits prove that between 1489 and 1506, Pedro Madruga was alive. Before Madruga disappeared, he became one of the enemies of the Catholic monarchs. His usually brave personality and the blood hot like Tabasco provided him with many troubles. Blood hot like Tabasco provided him with many troubles. He made several mistakes with the officials, and his surname became notorious in the court of Madrid. More evidence of the Galician hypothesis. So the researchers say that Madruga came up with an excellent idea for his future. It was time when the Spanish and Portuguese already started to explore the earth. Madruga was a master of navigation and an excellent sailor, so he decided to vanish from Spain as a person who led what many call the greatest expedition of all time. When he returned to Spain, nobody was interested in his past life. He was named a hero, and the royal family wasn't interested in who he was before. The only thing that mattered was that he made Spain the most important king of the time. More evidence for his Galician theories, though, comes from Portugal. In the Portuguese court, the man who discovered New Spain is known as Pedro Colón. The family of Madruga also became part of his mystery. Researchers showed that his brother, João Gonçalves de Sotomayor, became Bartholomew Columbus. Uh, the researchers are still looking for confirmation connected with his mother, Constance. Christopher Columbus is believed to be either Italian, Spanish, Portuguese, or even half Polish. However, the newest research suggests that it is likely that he was from a small town in Galicia, Spain. In Galicia, the legend of Pedro Madrugal is very strong. There are restaurants and other places named in his memory. In a harbor in Bayona, there is a replica of a ship, La Pinta, which brought the information about the discovery by Columbus and the crew to Spain. If you ask people there who discovered New Spain, they will tell you without a doubt that the Galicians did it. There's also another theory that he might have been born in Catalonia. And it's also possible, and here this is where my opinion about this whole thing is I'm almost guaranteed that Christopher Columbus, first of all, his real name is Cristobal Colon. What I'm about to say now is not an offense to people, Italians or Italian Americans, wherever they were born, wherever in the Americans they were born, whether they're from South America or the United States, any Italian, wherever they were born in the continent of America, or they're descended from Italy. So when I mean Italian Americans, I don't mean just in the United States, but anywhere where there are people who are of Italian descent who live or were born in the continent of America, United States, Argentina, Uruguay, Argentina, or any Brazil. This is not an offense. I consider them my brothers and my Southern European brothers and sisters, Southern European sisters and brothers, and it's not. But the facts are the truth is the truth. The fact of the matter is that, first of all, Italy did not exist in 1492 and will not exist for another. Let me see. I can't calculate this. Will not exist for another 369 years. It was not established as a United Kingdom. It did not exist as a nation until 1861, with, I believe, Emmanuel the First being the first king of a united Italy. And if I'm incorrect about that, please feel free to comment and correct me on it. Italy did not exist. And Genoa was a part of the Spanish Empire, if I'm not mistaken. It's not most of what is today Italy, pre-Italy, or pre-Italian history. It was under the rule of many nations that had already been established. We know that Spain was established as a nation in 1056 AD, and it took centuries to capture the rest of the Iberian Peninsula and defeat the Moors. They eventually would capture through marriage, eventually the union between Isabella Castile the First and Ferdinand the Second of Aragon. Eventually they would unite, have a child, I believe it was Charles V. But at that time they also had overseas possessions or colonies, and I think what is today Italy, Naples and Sicily and Genoa was all part of the Spanish Empire. So he only wrote, and there's another clue, he only wrote in Spanish. That was another thing. So he had to have been born in Spain. This is probably, if there's any country he would have definitely been born in, would probably be Spanish. He wrote and read in Spanish and spoke Spanish. So, otherwise he would have spoke Ligurian, the language of Genoa. So this is indisputable evidence that he was not Italian. The country did not exist. And even if it did, it didn't. So, and even if he was born in Genoa, it was part of Spain anyway. But I believe he would have learned the language of Genoa, the Ligurian, I think it was. he would have learned that language. I mean, how can you be born somewhere and not learn the language? You know. I think it's called Genovese. The locally called Zeneize, Zeneize, is the main Ligurian dialect spoken in and around the Italian city of Genoa, and the capital of Liguria, in northern Italy. So he would have learned that language, but he only spoke Spanish, wrote in Spanish. So that's a clue right there. He must have been born in Spain, because Spain is the only country where the national language is Spanish. Originally it was called Castilian, but it was called Spanish. And later it was called Spanish because it started out in Castilla. But it would later spread throughout the entire Iberian Peninsula, so then they renamed it Spanish because it's spoken all over Spain. And it comes directly from Vulgar Latin, which was spoken by the Roman Empire. So that is my opinion, my educated opinion, that he was not Italian. And so in reality, the Columbus Day parade is false. It really shouldn't be celebrated by Italians. I mean, Genovese, if you come from, maybe, I guess, but it really should be celebrated by people from Spain and anybody who is directly descended, either born in Spain or descended from Spain, living in the diaspora, or descended from Spain, from the Americas, logically more directly, or even partially, but those are the only people who should be celebrating. And the other thing I wanted to state is that now it is also, whether he was a hero or not, that's a matter of interpretation. Did he cause the atrocities later on? People are going to do what you can't blame one person for the actions of others. People are going to do what they do. People don't have the control. He couldn't have anticipated what would have happened. That's asking too much of anybody. And Native Americans, especially the Aztecs and the Incas, were just as brutal. And many of the Native Americans, like the Iroquois and the Cherokee, a lot of them went to war with each other, and so there were no different in terms of they were just as warlike as Europeans. So and it was also a theory that Cristobal Colon was also a Jewish. That's a good possibility. The fact that he never identified himself. He never identified his identity or where he was from. Maybe he was trying to hide that because during Spain there was the Spanish Inquisition, so he certainly wouldn't want to reveal himself as being Jewish. But there's a good possibility, I think the greatest possibility, that his origins was definitely Spanish, but from Galicia or Catalonia. I go with the Galician because it sounds like he might have changed his name, and like I said, all the places that he went to, he named it after Galician areas. He named it after places that come from, in Galicia. It could be possible he was Catalonian, but to me, the Columbus Day parade is a fraud. And again, this is not an insult to my Italian sisters and brothers, but I have nothing against Italian. As a matter of fact, I'm part Italian myself. My parents are from Uruguay. We have both Spanish and Italian ancestry. I am mostly Spanish. So. But that is my educated theory. That's my theory. I accept that. You can take the information for what it's worth. If you were offended, please accept my apology. I'm not here to defend, just to enlighten. I'm giving you an alternative perspective. You can take the information for what it's worth, and that's it. I just wanted to wish everyone, have a nice day. All my YouTube members. Until the next episode, I want to wish you all good luck, and may God bless you all.